Do you believe SpaceX could one day become a space taxi company? Elon Musk recently said that once the Gigabays he's building at Starbase and in Florida are fully completed and operational, SpaceX could produce Starships at massive volume, possibly up to 10,000 ships per year. So, could this really happen? And if it does, what kind of advantages and challenges would a production scale this huge bring to SpaceX? Let's break it all down in today's episode of Alpha Tech. In the past, SpaceX typically needed about 3 to 4 months to manufacture all the major components for one Starship and one Super Heavy. If you include final assembly, the whole process could stretch to around 6 months. But SpaceX builds multiple vehicles at the same time. So in 2025 alone, they managed to produce roughly 4 Super Heavy boosters from B-15 to B-18 and 5 Starships from S-34 to S-38. For many companies, Blue Origin, for example, that would already be considered a fast production pace. Last year, Blue Origin produced just 2 New Glenn boosters, despite having a massive rocket factory covering 750,000 square feet. Ironically, Starship follows a more complex and less streamlined process, yet still delivers higher output. That's mainly because SpaceX manufactures individual sections inside the Star Factory, then moves them into nearby megabays for stacking and integration. This process actually takes less time than shipping Raptor engines from SpaceX's McGregor facility, which is over 400 miles away from Starbase. And that's exactly why Elon Musk decided to build 2 enormous new buildings called Gigabays, one massive structure at Starbase, replacing the old high bay, and another at the Roberts Road facilities, located inside Kennedy Space Center. The goal is to optimize the entire production process and push output even further. As Musk recently said, once the Gigabays are fully operational at peak capacity, SpaceX could potentially build up to 10,000 ships per year. That's about 27 vehicles a day. Sounds crazy, right? Because it almost feels like he wants to bring automotive-style mass production into the aerospace industry. And what makes it even more insane is that this isn't a few-ton car. It's a 300-ton, 2-stage, full-stack vehicle, standing 124.4 meters tall in the current version 3. And in the future, it'll be even bigger. According to Musk, version 4 could reach around 142 meters when fully stacked. So, is the 10,000 ship number realistic? In theory, yes, but that's clearly a long-term vision. In the nearer window, roughly between 2027 and 2030, if the Gigabays come online on schedule, a more realistic output would be around 1,000 Starships per year. And that makes sense when you look at the Gigabay configuration itself. Each Gigabay is essentially a fully integrated facility, combining the roles of today's Star Factory and Megabays into a closed-loop production system. The building stands 380 feet tall, about a 40-story building, offering up to 815,000 square feet of floor space and roughly 46.5 million cubic feet of interior processing volume. Inside, it's equipped with 24 dedicated work cells designed for integration and refurbishment of both Super Heavy boosters and Starship vehicles. That's 19 more work cells than the old Megabay setup. Now, imagine that scale, and then double it, because SpaceX is building 2 Gigabays, not just one. And the construction progress so far looks solid, with both facilities expected to be operational by the end of 2027, ready for full-scale mass production. That timeline also lines up neatly with another bold statement Elon Musk recently posted on X, where he said, in about 3 years or so, Starship will launch more than once per hour. That number is almost impossible, because even with Falcon 9, where SpaceX just set a new turnaround time record at SLC-40, the fastest reuse cycle is still around 45 hours. But it may still happen. If SpaceX can really produce thousands of Starships per year, then it has to support an absolutely insane launch cadence like that. Still, some people argue, if Starship is fully reusable, what's the point of mass producing it at this scale? It's a fair question, and SpaceX does have a clear reason. First, economics. Elon Musk wants to drive Starship's cost down, but that cost reduction comes primarily from production scale, not from pushing reuse to the absolute limit. Here's the key point. Most of the cost savings from reusability are already harvested within the first 10 to 20 flights. During that phase, the vehicle's build cost gets amortized, and the marginal cost per launch drops sharply, from thousands of dollars per kilogram down to just a few $100s per kilogram. Beyond that threshold, you hit a cost floor. Fixed expenses like propellant, operations labor, inspections, and refurbishment dominate, and those costs don't shrink much, no matter how many more times the vehicle flies. So extending a Starship's life from 20 flights to 40, or even 100 flights, only delivers marginal improvements in overall cost per kilogram. Most of the economic benefit is already locked in early. To push optimization further and drive costs even lower, SpaceX would have to apply Wright's Law to Starship production. Under this law, unit cost falls exponentially as cumulative production increases. If both Gigabays are online and capable of producing around 1,000 vehicles per year, the estimated manufacturing cost for a full stack, Starship plus Super Heavy, would be roughly $26 million. But once SpaceX scales to 10,000 ships per year, essentially reaching full industrialization, everything changes. Manufacturing costs could drop sharply to around $12.2 million per full stack, driven by true mass production, stainless steel structures that scale easily, high levels of automation, and a massive Raptor engine supply chain. Up to this point, we've only been talking about Wright's Law on the manufacturing side. But there's one massive factor that can't be ignored. Starship is reusable. To really make reusability work, SpaceX wouldn't fly Starship and Super Heavy the same way. The booster is built to take more punishment and fly far more often, so it makes sense that one Super Heavy would support multiple ships. In simple terms, about 40% of the build cost sits in the ship itself, and roughly 60% in the booster. Right now, it's basically one ship per booster, but as production scales up, that changes fast. At around 1,000 vehicles a year, one booster could serve 3 Starships, and at 10,000 a year, that number could climb to 5. The more times that booster flies, the more the hardware costs get spread out, and the cheaper each launch becomes. Then you get to the recurring costs per launch, operations, fuel, and refurbishment. And this is where cadence really changes everything. Today, those costs are still high, around $10 million per flight, simply because Starship is still being operated like a campaign. Low launch frequency, lots of people involved, manual inspections everywhere, and very little standardization. But at scale, that entire mindset disappears. The infrastructure is already paid for. Fuel starts getting produced on site, exactly why SpaceX is building an air separation unit right near Starbase. And instead of special launch campaigns, Starship turns into a continuous operation, more like a factory than a traditional rocket program. As that happens, operating and fuel costs drop sharply, and refurbishment changes even more dramatically. Instead of tearing vehicles apart after every flight, the system shifts toward automated checks and exception-based maintenance. You only fix what actually needs fixing. Once you reach thousands of launches per year, refurbishment stops being a major cost driver altogether. When you combine all of that, mass production, aggressive reuse, and non-stop flight cadence, the numbers start to look almost unreal. At around 1,000 launches per year, the cost to reach low Earth orbit drops to about $1 per kilogram. Push that system to 10,000 launches per year, and you're suddenly talking about just a few cents per kilogram. And that's the key idea here. Starship isn't trying to become cheap by making one vehicle last forever. It becomes cheap by flying constantly and being replaced efficiently. At that point, it stops behaving like a rocket and starts behaving like logistics infrastructure, where the real cost driver isn't how long a vehicle survives, but how efficiently SpaceX can build, reuse, and operate the next one. And this is where things stop being just cheap and start becoming a serious competitive weapon. Mass production at this scale creates an entirely new cost baseline, one that competitors simply can't follow. Even right now, Falcon 9 launches for around $50 to $62 million per flight, and that alone was enough for SpaceX to steal huge portions of the market from traditional players like ULA or Boeing, where launches often cost hundreds of millions. Now, imagine Starship, fully optimized for reuse and built like an industrial product. Suddenly, a launch might cost just $1 or $2 million, while carrying 100, maybe even 150 tons to low Earth orbit in a single shot. At that point, the cost barrier to space basically collapses. SpaceX wouldn't just be cheaper than everyone else, It could realistically dominate commercial, military, and scientific launch almost across the board, creating an economic gap that competitors would struggle to close for an entire decade. And Starship doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a core piece of Elon Musk's broader tech ecosystem. With a massive Starship fleet, SpaceX could deploy millions of next-generation Starlink 5-3 satellites, something smaller rockets like Falcon 9 simply can't do efficiently, either in cost or in speed. At the same time, the links to XAI get tighter. Grok can support Starlink operations, while Tesla's AI software and chips could end up inside Optimus robots, running Starship factories, or even working directly in space. But the most disruptive outcome might be what Starship unlocks next: orbital compute. This idea is already moving from science fiction into something that actually makes economic sense. On Earth, a 1 gigawatt data center can cost $10 to $14 billion once you factor in land, grid connections, and massive water cooling systems. But lifting 10,000 tons of equivalent hardware into orbit would cost only about $100 million if launch prices fall to around $10 per kilogram. At that point, transportation is just about 1% of the total investment, effectively turning space into cheap infrastructure. But for all of those advantages, this approach also creates some very real challenges that SpaceX has to deal with. The first one is the hardest by far: making the jump from experimental prototypes to true industrial mass production. That's a massive leap. Keeping quality consistent across thousands of vehicles, from precision welding on stainless steel tanks to Raptor engine assembly to the thermal protection tile system, demands extreme automation, tight process control, and far less room for human error. When you're operating at this scale, even a small mistake, if repeated, can turn into a wave of failures that slows everything down and drives costs back up. There's also a very practical problem people don't talk about enough. Where do you put all these ships? Thousands of super heavy boosters and Starships need somewhere to sit, waiting for launch, waiting for refurbishment, or waiting to be stacked. Each full Starship vehicle is enormous and takes up a huge footprint. At something like 10,000 vehicles per year, SpaceX could easily need tens of hectares of concrete just for storage, servicing, and staging.